Hi, I'm Will Leach, author of Marketing to Mind States, and this is your Mind State Messenger. So this week's messenger took 3 times longer than it normally does because I was sitting there wondering about how to write a blog about wandering minds, and my mind started to wander. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk to you about in this week's messenger. Wandering minds and how to deal with your customers' wandering minds, because it is a fact of nature. So our minds, whether you know it or not, are constantly wandering from thought to thought. So how do you deal with this in your marketing? How do you deal with this idea when people you want to be reviewing your website and learning all the great things that you do, when we know from neuroscience that their mind is wandering? So do you want to know how much? Well, it's actually kind of a big problem. Estimates actually show that our minds wander 30% of the time. The fact of the matter is your mind is probably going to wander while you're watching this, which is scary for me because I'm trying to create engaging content for you. Now, wandering is not the same as daydreaming. It's actually much worse. Daydreaming is kind of when you put yourself in an alternate reality and you're thinking about a great vacation or maybe, being a space traveler. Wandering's slightly different. It's more specific in that as you are doing a task, your mind will oftentimes go separately into a totally different task. So an example of a wandering mind is when you are driving your car to work. And the vast majority of time, you're essentially multitasking because your mind is wandering because you don't have to relay so much information into all your motor senses as you're driving. It just becomes natural. So your mind is constantly wandering. That's not oftentimes daydreaming. It's actually wandering into other thoughts. So as I said, wandering is all about when you have asked your customer to do a task and then that customer fades into doing something else. Now, wandering minds are probably good for us personally. I'm not a neuroscientist, but I recognize the fact that if our mind needs a break, and if it's constantly wandering, that's probably a good thing for us. And I do know that studies show that those that tend to wander more in their thoughts, they end up being more creative. So actually, it's probably good for us personally, but it's not so good if you're a brand marketer because you're trying to maintain focus on your business and on your messaging, and your customers' minds are wandering. So how do you deal with your customers' wandering minds? Well, first off is this. You need to recognize it is happening and you probably can't stop it anyways. I mean, we're creatures that are habitual. Our minds are wandering for a purpose. So the first thing I would tell you is that it's probably not efficient for you to figure out a way to keep them so engaged that their minds can't wander. If you're good in doing that, then you shouldn't be watching my Mindstate Messenger. You should go writing something on your own because you are essentially doing something that nobody else can do. Maintain focus for that length of time. Now, the second thing is consider using a pillar strategy in your marketing. And you hyperlink back to your site. So if you don't know what a pillar marketing strategy is, you should look it up. But basically what it is, it's essentially doing marketing in a brand new way where you're allowing people to be educated on their terms on a particular topic. And as you're educating a long pillar, you're actually creating more and more content that links back to your site. The point of it is this, is that if our minds want to wander, allow the mind to wander as they're engaging with your content. So don't try to focus them only on one specific thing. Allow them the mechanism to wander as they're learning more about you and your services. And lastly, have you ever kind of wandered so far off the map or you're on a trip and all of a sudden you don't know how to get back? Don't let that happen to your customers. Make it very easy to find their way back if they are going to wander off. So on your website, have links that go back up or whatever it takes to make sure that they know how to get back to where they originally wanted to be. Anything you do to make their life easier to find their way back will be useful because they're not actively disengaging. Their mind is oftentimes just wandering. Sometimes, ultimately, the easiest solution is to just go with the flow and let your customers do what comes naturally. And if that's wandering minds, that's a wandering mind. Play within that concept and do your best to grow your business using behavioral science. So if you want to learn more about how these behavioral science principles can help you grow your business, visit mindstategroup.com, where we have various products and services and offers that can help you get your customers to listen, care, and act so you can grow your business using behavioral science.